So hello, everybody. Today we are watching Britney's new look, South Park, so be sure to go and watch that first, and then I'm gonna be here talking about all of the themes and whatnot like I usually do using cubing. And then please take notes, because next class you guys are going to be writing a one-page compare and contrast paper for me on the lottery and Britney's new look. So go watch now. So let's do cubing. Describe. Again, it's an animation, it's short, it's for adults, it's set in America, South Park, Colorado, which is fictitious, and it's modern. Compare and contrast. So, there's this idea of self-sacrifice rather than violent sacrifice. We have paparazzis being compared to zombies or monsters. We have celebrity gossip versus news. We have being stressed and tired versus being stoned and stupid. We have celebrities being compared to products. And we have the real life Britney having shaved her head to her missing most of her head. Associations. There are very obvious connections to the lottery, right? There should be, because that's the point of this. There's direct references to the Stones, Must Die for Harvest, Here Davy, You Go On, I'll Catch Up With You, and of course, characters being drawn similarly to the way they were in the video that I had you watch. So the combo of both of them shows a de-evolution of the family. Remember we talked about that in the last class. So they set their children against their mothers. Her reference to her children and their obvious separation is what happened with Britney versus the children actually stoning their mother to death. And it's clear that the old and the young participate, which means that this is a cultural issue, a societal issue, not just a young person issue. And the message is of barbarism or being barbaric. So we like to think that we are more civilized now, but the truth is that we still lust for torture and death, and it's no different than gladiator times, as they say. And this is very, very true. I want you to think of semi-modern circumstances like the witch trials. We obviously have the gladiators that we can associate this with. Public hangings. The Aztecs, they killed 80,000 people in 48 hours, and they would do this on more than one occasion, and it was always to appease a god or for good fortune. They would just mass slaughter people. Which is terrifying, by the way. And for more recent or modern things, I want you to think about the fact that the lottery itself was written after World War II, which we talked about. And we had concentration camps in the United States for the Japanese. So we certainly did some terrible things. Think about just what happened during World War II in general, what happens during war in general, and the types of willing sacrifices that people are making on behalf of other people. Just because of fear and tradition, demonization of the enemy, the us versus them mentality that we have. In the episode, they pick one girl, or they mention that they pick one girl, adorn her with jewels, treat her like a goddess, and then watch her die. And they used to do that with the women they'd push into volcanoes for sacrifices, typically virgins. And we have, of course, this deep and extensive history with sacrifice, as I was just talking about. And it's more commonly known as the psychological term Schadenfreude. We currently have this issue of Schadenfreude, which is another kind of sacrificing of other people for our own good, well-being, happiness. And it's because it means that we derive pleasure from seeing other people's pain, especially people who have more than us, which is also a connection to tall poppy syndrome that's connected in Harrison Bergeron. More associations. We're going to talk about some of these things here in a minute. Horror elements. They lend very well to the message of the story and the satire. It helps exaggerate and create monsters like the paparazzi and the fake Latin, the hatus alte amibus, and on. It actually has no translation, but Latin is often used in horror movies. So that is to represent evil, to represent brutality, to represent Satan. And calling Satan or sacrificing to Satan. And then there's another connection to the real MTV Awards in 2007, right after she shaved her head, divorced her husband, lost her kids, and went to rehab twice. And I'm going to link below the link to the actual show so that you can create a more direct comparison to how they were mimicking things that happen in real life. And in addition, I'll have another link for this next connection, which is the Leave Her Alone guy on YouTube, whose personality seen screen on TV, just leave Britney alone. I'll link that again because there's definitely references there to that with Butters just saying to leave her alone. So analyze it, which of course is the biggest part here. So how do they set beauty standards for celebrities in the episode? Well, they say references like, oh, she really chubbed up. There's at least 5 weight references. They talk about the acne on her face, her bold, new, no top of the head look, her boob job scar, and all of her new looks are sexy. They're obviously sexualizing her. They keep referencing her camel toe and putting her in tight clothing, and that's because she is a sex symbol pop star. And that means that she's got to be young and beautiful and on point at all times, but she cannot seem fake. She's still got to kind of seem like the girl next door, which is what they try to do to her for a long time, not very successfully. So then how does that also represent beauty standards for celebrities in real life? Well, why does it lead many of them to plastic surgery to placate the public? Because the more your person is seen or your image is seen by people, the more critical they're going to be of you, and everybody wants to have their own opinion, and they don't feel like celebrities have real problems or feelings, and so they just tear people down as they will. And of course, social media really helps with this. It does all, as does all of the fake celebrity news and stuff. But since media shows women as over-sexualized, like them pointing to her ass on stage, her blurring her face instead of her crotch in the P photo, the just flash your crotch at us or something, and focusing on her body, is making the connection to her being a real product. This is once again dehumanizing our victim. Britney's the victim in this. She is being targeted over and over. She can't get any peace of mind whatsoever, and most celebrities cannot, because anytime they go somewhere, people recognize them, or the paparazzi's following them just to get something. And granted, Britney went through a time where she flashed her crotch all over the place, and that's one of the references that they're making. But if the paparazzi weren't so moralless, so able to shut down the human empathy that we're supposed to have for one another, they would not take that photo, nor would they publish it, which is what they're getting at with the connection with the monsters too, and are objectifying by literally making them into an object rather than a person of what we do, especially with pop stars and actors and anybody who gets, camera lights flashed in their face all the time. Ranting, trying not to. How does celebrity news become more important than actual news in the episode? Well, we see it interrupting the presidential debate for an emergency news bulletin, Britney watch, and they showcase her camping and pissing on a ladybug. Is this newsworthy? Doesn't everybody who goes camping piss in the woods and likely on an insect? Yes. So the trivial parts of her life are worth $100,000? And that is showing how much value we put on people who we think of as better than ourselves. Yes, they have some talent. They have some success. They likely have more money because of these things. But the more that money they get, the more exploited they also tend to be, and the less freedoms that they have to get away from everything and decompress, to turn off, and to be human for a little while rather than product, because we'll get to this in a second. I'm going to derail my rant. So did you notice how much time she had to herself? How much time does she have off? Most celebrities don't have a whole lot of time off. We seem to push them farther than we do people in our actual lives. So employees, students, family members, friends, even politicians, we don't push as hard as we push celebrities. In fact, we treat them as though they're infallible gods a lot of the time. But are they not real people even though they have money and fame? How would you feel if you were never allowed to have a break? You probably attack somebody with an umbrella, like Britney did. The paparazzi wouldn't leave her alone. She was having really bad time in her life, and people just wanted to keep shoving cameras in her face and microphones and asking her about it. No real person wants to have to deal with grief and to be harassed at the same time. You're gonna snap. And not only do they show the paparazzi and whatnot not leaving her alone, I mean, she's in the hospital, for Christ's sake, dying. They also show in this episode that her manager is continuously pushing her harder and harder instead of sending her home to rest or leaving her in the hospital, which she likely needed. She's actually just ushered back into the studio and on a major media stage at the MTV Awards, and then her criticism is brushed off, like, oh, that's alright, we'll put you on some fast, or you just need to go on a diet, or they're just jealous. And this is just perpetuating the problem. They are sacrificing her mental stability and self-care in order to continuously make more buck out of her. Because it doesn't matter that the attention's negative, they're still making money off of it. And that's what a lot of slimy people like to do, like managers. I believe her manager did do that to her at some point. Now, besides the fact that her mom spends most of her money, but that's neither here nor there. So think about how they spend their days. They wake up, go train or travel, arrive somewhere, go on a talk show or a radio show and promote the thing that you're doing, then have lunch, go do a meet and greet, go sign things, promote more, do your dress rehearsal, go perform, go have your VIP section afterwards, maybe relax a little bit before you get on your bus, but most likely just go back onto your bus, relax, sleep, travel to the next place, do it all over again. How much time do they really get to themselves to rejuvenate when they're on tour and doing things? It's ridiculous how not only physically exhausting it is, but mentally exhausting it is. And add on the fact that people continuously criticize them and think they should be doing more than any other human being does, really amplifies their destruction of themselves. AKY, she eventually dies at the end of the episode. So why doesn't she have a voice for the majority of the episode? The media takes it away from her. Anything she says would make her look worse, and this happens to a lot of celebrities who try to defend things that they say. It just, people misquote them or amplifies an already existing argument, etc. So it's just better to duck and to let the storm pass. And this is what happens to victims a lot of the time. They curl up and they wait for it to be over. And that is what Britney does at the end of the episode. She just curls up and waits, and then she dies. And this is truly showing her as the victim. Yes, she got all of this great stuff, but does that mean that she should have been sacrificed? I mean, just because people have doesn't mean we should treat them badly. And it's also hard to fight back with the ethics of the tabloids. They stage photos like Butter's dressed up in the squirrel for her to poop on, especially if people make an easy buck off of them. So more and more people will swarm to get their shots. Hence the zombie-like behavior of the paparazzi, and the media's logic is clear on how they create circular arguments from her boob job scar and the timing of the broadcast for her injury when they were reporting on it. The time didn't line up, but they're willing to still say those things like that because it means people will buy their magazine and perpetuate false truths to gain a buck. They also swarm her and give her no privacy, compounding on the fact that she's also had no rest. Can you imagine what kind of dirt a paparazzi would get off of you if they followed you around 24/7? I wouldn't want people following me around that much even at all, figuring some of the things that I do. How do you feel like this would harm your psyche? I mean, the attempt at being perfect all the time would cause extreme anxiety, knowing that the whole world will laugh at you and criticize you. That she broke down in an interview one time when asked, what do you think it will take for the paparazzi to leave you alone? And she just started crying. She was young. She's your age. Like, she couldn't handle that kind of pressure, and people wouldn't relent because that was how they made money. It's the lack of morality. That ability to objectify her as a person, instead of as a person, but as a product. And of course, there are those physical dangers of things like the paparazzi too. Real life connection to this would be Princess Diana and the paparazzi that caused her car crash. They were following her and she was trying to get away and they kept speeding up, and that's what caused her crash and her death. Shit like this happens all the time. People are so greedy that they don't give a shit about the people that they're stepping on to get that money. Argue. Last step. What is their overall message? And Go Butters, he's the one who said this. Everyone deserves respect and privacy, no matter who they are. And it's true. We should not treat anybody better or worse based on their position in life. That is exactly what he's saying. She deserved the privacy and respect to live her life and not be judged constantly every second of the day. So essentially, we should leave celebrities alone. When we don't, what happens to them? They drive too fast. They use too many drugs. They commit suicide. We can think of plenty of examples of this. Heath Ledger, Amy Winehouse, Michael Jackson, Anna Nicole Smith, Whitney Houston, Robin Williams, Paul Walker, etc. You know what some of those are. I'm sure you guys could provide your own examples of this. And the thing is that celebrities have real problems, and we still break them down for our own entertainment. It's not right to take advantage of people, no matter who they are. And it's all of us. It's all of the Americans. All Americans, we're all a part of it. We all help perpetuate it, given the different ways that we consume this type of entertainment. So they finally imply a cycle. They did it to Britney, and they foreshadow doing it to Miley Cyrus. Who else does this happen to? Justin Bieber, Amanda Bynes, Shia LaBeouf, Christian Bale, Mel Gibson, Kanye West, Charlie Sheen, Lindsay Lohan, Tom Cruise. And the list goes on and on and on and on. And how often are they left alone even after death? And they're not. We still talk about these people all the time and bring up the anniversaries of their deaths and their lives and the things like that, because when we run low on new ways to criticize people, we lean on our old ones because we can't help ourselves. We have not changed in all that time. We still want somebody else to take that misery for us. So, traditions are hard to change because we are hard to change as a people. Anyways, I hope you took notes. Next class, you're going to be writing your compare and contrast. I will have a video helping explain the general structure of that on Friday for you guys. Just one page, handwritten or typed. You can email it to me when you are done. I will be grading it for credit, so I will see you then.